Awesome. So why don't we start it off with the first time or the time you met a guy named David at the 2015 Moth Ball, I believe it was. What happened when you met a guy named David?
That's well done there. So I was at the Moth Ball, which is a fundraiser for the Moth Education Program. And on that night, I had to tell a 90-second version of my 6-minute story that I won a Grand Slam for. So I did that and it went well. I always I tell the full story in 90 seconds as opposed to a lot of people who just tell a scene. So they get the full sense of the story. And my wife and I went to dance, and one of the Moth staffers came up to me and said, "We need you. David would like to speak to you, one of our donors." And so my wife said, "I'll go use the restroom. You go speak to this David guy." So I went into the back room, and he was there, and he said, "I'd like to record your story onto my phone. I want a copy of that 90-second story." And I said, "Okay." I knew he was a donor, and we were sort of waiting for them to find a spot for this to happen. And I said, "So have you ever told a story?" And he said, "Well, I did a TED talk about a time I held my breath for 17 minutes." And I said, "Are you David Blaine?" He said, "Yes, I'm David Blaine, the magician." So I told my story into his phone actually a couple times. He wanted it. He wanted it again. He said, "Can you do it again and just do it more like what you did on stage?" So I did it
Wow.
twice. And then he did a trick for me. We had a reporter from the New Yorker with us for some reason. She was joining the three of us. And so he did a trick. And the trick convinced me that magic is real. It was so
Hmm.
impossible what he did that I couldn't begin to imagine how he'd accomplished this. I turned to the New Yorker reporter and I said, "I think he's a real wizard." And she said, "Yes, I agree." And then he said, "I want to give you my card because I want you to be in touch." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "It's already in your pocket." And I said, "No." And I reached into my coat pocket and it was in my coat pocket. It was actually, it's a playing card and his information is embedded within the playing card. I actually have it right here on my desk. So yeah, that was quite an experience.
Was there a mutual level of respect for both of you guys because he tells stories in his own way, you tell stories in your way? Was there a respect or a connection instantly there?
Well, I thought there was because he was so enamored with my story that he wanted it on his phone. Had
Hmm.
he not done that, I would have just sort of been gawking at David Blaine the whole time. But because he had sort of opened up with the idea that he liked my story enough that he wanted it, there really was sort of a leveling of the playing field. And suddenly we're two guys talking about storytelling in the different ways that we do it.